am Rosie and I am 5 years old and I have never seen a hedgehog. Do you think I will?
Rosalie, I'm so sorry, I'm so sad that you haven't yet seen a hedgehog. Do I think you will? I do, because we know how to look after hedgehogs, and if we do so properly, there's a chance that maybe their numbers will increase, and maybe at some point you'll come across one of these animals snuffling in the long grass somewhere where you are, sniffing out beetles beneath the brambles. They're very charismatic and very beautiful animals, but I'm afraid that we have neglected their conservation in the past.
Hi, my name's Orkney. I'm 8 years old and I live from the Isles of Scilly. Sand eels have been banned from being fished by humans, but what else can they do to protect our puffins and other seabirds?
Well, Orkney, sadly, the vast majority of our marine wildlife is in decline because of overfishing and pollution, habitat damage and loss. So as well as not fishing for them, we need to better protect the homes of sand eels and all the other marine life that our seabirds feed on. That's absolutely key to their survival. If you have a healthy seabed and if you have more seagrass, you get more sand eels, more fish species, and as a result, more seabirds. Now, sand eels feed on plankton and they're also an important food source for bigger fish like pollock and mackerel and for harbour porpoises. So they help to keep the whole habitat in balance. And seagrass meadows themselves play a huge role in storing carbon and in keeping the waters clean. Everything is interconnected in an ecosystem. You need all the species there to make the entire marine environment healthy. And once it's healthy, it helps to keep all life on the planet healthy, including us. So we need to take much better care of it. Now, the thing is, the UK government has promised to protect 30% of the UK's land and sea and to stop nature's decline by 2030. But they're not even close to meeting those targets. So we need to continue to make our voices heard, just like this, talking about brilliant questions like yours and calling for better protection for our marine environments.
What's the best nature job that you've ever had, and what green jobs do we not have enough of?
Luca, the best nature job that I've ever had, that's a really tricky one. I like seeing new animals and new plants. That's always very exciting, of course. But most of all, I like learning new things about them from people who know more about them than I do. I like learning things. Very often I get to meet scientists and they're doing some, very, very interesting research, and they tell me something they found out. The other day, I found out that the oldest bird's nest known in the world is 2,740 years old. And they know that because they were looking at the bird's poo in that nest. So I love those sorts of things, there's no doubt about that. And when it comes to green jobs, I think there are enormous opportunities waiting for young people to go through their education, go through some training and really prosper in what will be a raft of new green jobs that we need to protect our environment.
Hi, my name is Sam. I live by a farm in a woodland. Bees and butterflies are very scarce here. In 100 years, if you could time travel, what do you think wildlife would be like then?
Hello, Sam. I'm sorry you don't have many bees and butterflies in the woodland and on the farm where you live. I can only imagine that when I was a child, and that was a long time ago, I'm 62 years old, there might have been a few more of them, because very sadly, whilst I've been interested in nature and wildlife and conservation, we've lost many of those species, and that makes me feel terrible. I feel a bit guilty, which is why we're all working really hard to change that. Now, I'd like you to ask any adults that you know to sign our letter. It's an open letter to all of the political party leaders, asking them to include some very important things in their forthcoming manifestos. And the manifestos are pledges, promises, things they'll do if they win that election. And the reason that we are asking, you to ask those adults to sign that letter is that we do have a whole range of different things that we can do that would increase the number of bees and would increase the number of butterflies in your woodland and on your farm. So if I had a time machine and I could go forward to the future, if those politicians listened to the letter, which your adult friends might have signed, then I think there could be more bees and butterflies, and that would be a good thing. You know, we do have the solutions. We've just got to get people to make sure that they use them, and that you can help with, Sam. So please do.
My name is Tom and I'm 10 years old. Sometimes businesses say they're good for nature when they're not. How many marks out of 10 would you give them?
I love this question, Tom. Some businesses are better than others, but overall, I'm afraid I'd have to give them a 2 out of 10 right now because of fossil fuel and intensive agriculture businesses, especially, that bring the overall rating down. There's also a lot of greenwashing going on. So companies pretend they're doing great things for the environment, but when you look a little bit closer, that simply isn't true. And they're really just focusing on making more money. There's an Indigenous saying that I love, and it says, "Only when the last tree has died, the last river has been poisoned, and the last fish has been caught, will we realise we cannot eat money." The way our economy works means that businesses prioritise profits over the planet. So as they make things to sell, they're polluting, or they make cheaper plastics that are impossible to recycle, or they just make more and more stuff to sell. And all of that has a carbon footprint. But the thing is, we do have all the solutions. Businesses can be the heroes here by providing us with the energy and the materials and the products that benefit society and the planet, working together to make sure they use natural resources over and over again, with the waste products of one business becoming the raw materials for another. If they were to prioritise the planet instead and place nature firmly at the heart of all the decisions they make, they would help create a thriving and sustainable world.
Hi, my name's Oscar. I'm 10 years old and I live in Histon, Cambridgeshire. And I absolutely love adders. But here in Cambridgeshire, adders have gone extinct due to habitat loss, heathland and moorland being destroyed and built over. And I really want to know, what's the best way to help protect and preserve adders?
Hello, Oscar. I'm sorry that you don't have any adders left in Cambridgeshire. That's a terrible thing. I used to grow up with adders as quite common animals where I lived. I actually used to catch them, and occasionally I was bitten by them. I was bitten by them twice, actually. Quite painful, but I'm still here to talk about it. And they're beautiful, beautiful animals. But we know that they're in deep trouble, like so many of our other species. Their populations have been fragmented, and that means that they occur in different spots, and the adders in one spot can't get to the adders in the other spot. So if anything happens to this group of adders, these ones can't move back to recolonise that area. That's one problem that they've had. Loss of habitat, you mentioned, of course, is another problem, and also perhaps the number of non-native game birds that we release into the environment, things like pheasants and partridges, and we know that they can harm reptiles like adders. So there's a whole series of problems, but we know what the problems are and we know how to solve those problems, and that's what we need to do.
Hi, my name's Ellen. I would like to know the best animal encounter you've had in the UK and what animal you think is most at risk.
Hi, Ellen. I had a wonderful wildlife encounter when I joined scientists who were monitoring freshwater pearl mussels in a river in Cumbria. It felt quite magical to step carefully around them in our wellies, spotting beautiful clumps of them and their gorgeous shells beneath the water when the angle was just right, and then they disappear again underneath the water. They have a fascinating life cycle. Their larvae attach to the gills of fish, they hitch a ride, and when they're big enough, they drop off, and then they use their muscular foot to scrape algae and bacteria from the gravel on the riverbed, and they use that as food. And then at around 3 to 5 years old, they will have developed gills, and they'll filter feed from the flowing river water, filtering up to about 50 litres of water a day and helping to keep the water very clean for all the other species that live in the river. Freshwater pearl mussels can live up to 130 years. Can you believe that? But they are incredibly rare, living in just a few river systems in the UK. They need clean, cool, fast-flowing waters to survive, and sadly now they are critically endangered. We need to do more to support the environments they live in as a matter of urgency. So we're calling on the government for more green jobs, jobs that help to restore nature or help to reduce carbon emissions, jobs that contribute to the health of our environment in some way. To be honest, every single job today should be green as a matter of course.
My name is Pasha, I'm 6 years old. I love nature, but there isn't much of it near my house. Should we have nature everywhere?
Pasha, you are absolutely right. I think we've got into a bad habit. You know, like sometimes if you want to see some art, you would go to an art gallery. You know, if sometimes you want to see some sort of old stuff, relics, you would go to a museum. Well, I think we've got into the habit of thinking if we want to see some nature, we go to a nature reserve. But that's wrong. I'm with you. I think that nature should be absolutely everywhere. It should be in our streets, in our gardens, in our school grounds. It should be in our parks. It should be in our workplaces. It should be in our educational spaces as well. And nature doesn't need much. It just needs a scrappy patch of ground sometime. Look behind me. It's a scrappy patch of ground with a few wildflowers growing in it, but there's nature there. So we know that we can, you know, encourage nature. And when there's not much of it, we know that how to fix it, how it can recover. And that's why I'd like you to do me a favour, which would actually in turn one day do you a favour too. I'd like you to ask all of the adults that you know, every single last one of them, to sign our open letter to the political leaders, asking them to put a few promises in their manifesto. 5 things we want them to promise. And if they do that, and they stick to those promises, should they win the election, then we believe there is a chance that nature can recover. And if it does recover, there could be a lot more of it near and around you. And that would make your life both happier, I imagine, and certainly a lot healthier. So please badger those adults to sign our open letter, Pasha. Thank you.